r/AskReddit. Did you ever snoop through your parents' things as a child and absolutely regret what you found to this day? What was it and did they ever find out? NSFW. My mom used my husband's phone to call the man she was having an affair with. The phone had auto record on, and that was how I found out she'd been in that relationship for 17 years and tried to have kids with him as well. My dad found out about this years ago and almost broke the marriage. What he doesn't know is that she continued the relationship up until last year and only recently broke it off because the bastard cheated on her with someone else. She's also a raging narcissist. A little late, but I hope someone sees this so they can share my horror. I was laying on the bed with my parents when I saw what I thought was strawberry squeeze candy. They tried to hide it and make me forget about it, but I thought they were just hiding some sweet candy from me and not sharing, so it made me want to try it more. I used my finger to try a little bit from the top and my parents were laughing, and I didn't understand why. Took me a couple years to realize. I ate my parents' fucking lube straight from the applicator, and it makes me die inside every time I remember. Fuck my life. Edit. I was maybe 7 or 8 at the time for reference. I found typed letters from my dad to my mom in my mom's room. They had been divorced for a couple years at that time and the letters said some pretty horrible things about her and about how we were being raised. I'm assuming she was keeping them in case she needed them in court. After my dad passed away, I searched through the browser history on his computer. Tons of porn and websites for ordering black market Viagra. I didn't personally regret finding it, but I know my mom would have, so I deleted the history and never told her. Reminds me of the medical alert bracelet that says delete my browser history instead of diabetes or epilepsy, etc. My parents got divorced when my dad was caught cheating on my mom. After the divorce I went to visit my dad in LA when I was about 13. I decided to snoop through his bin of floppy disks and found a very long story he had typed out during the divorce. In it he describes graphic sexual acts with the new woman. How his life would be easier if my mom was to suddenly drop dead. Specifically that he would fantasize about the police showing up at his door to tell him my mom was killed in a car accident. I also learned how his AOL name that he'd been using for years is actually just an inside joke between him and his now wife about the length of his dick. He still uses that name to this day. He did find out that I saw it, and he explained that at the time of the divorce he was seeing a therapist who told him to write the story. I think it was meant for the therapist to read and gain some insight into what my dad was going through. I ended up finding a quite kinky vibrator/dildo in my grandma's possession. That was 6 years ago, but I still have the image seared into my mind. I found a riding crop in my parents' wardrobe. I was like, when the fuck did we get a horse? Edit. For everyone saying my dad is hung like a horse, he is. I was unlucky enough to get my mum's dick. Look, maybe it just died before you were born, and they just kept it for sentimental reasons. I found a beer opener that was shaped like a huge black penis. I put it back, but then years later my younger sister found it and asked them what it was. Their faces were red while I tried not to laugh. I found my letters to Santa hidden in my parents' socks. In a thread of porn, dildos, and other NSFW things. Your story is cute and heartwarming. Well, thank you. It was a heartbreaking moment though. Oh, and a little context. My friend was overnighting at my house and my parents weren't home. So we decided to see if they had dildos, condoms, etc. in their drawers. Just thought it might make my story fit better. Edit. I was 11 at that time, and yes, I believed Santa was real at that age. Found some old nudes of my mom when I was like 11. I didn't realize it was her at first. Man, I have never lost a boner faster. The Joy of Sex book. Illustrated. Some of those hand-drawn pictures. Oh no. My poor innocent childhood brain. I also found this book when I was a kid. Instead of being disturbed, it became my secret porn. I found my uncle's suicide note which revealed a lot of shit about my family I didn't want to know when I was like 11. I spent a lot of time in closets as a child. My favorite place to be. In the back of our cedar closet, I found the Santa suit, wig and beard. Childhood ended. Not NSFW, but damn. Went to get a pair of dress socks out of my mom's dresser. Found a hardcore BDSM porn mag. Put the socks back. Closed the drawer. Changed into an outfit that didn't need dress socks. I was definitely aware my parents were human people who had sex, but I was also 14 years old and just, wow. Found a letter about a kid my mum gave up for adoption when she was 18. Weird to think my mum had a whole different life before I came along when she was 27. My sister snooped in my mom's journal when she was about 13 and found that my mom had also had a child at 18 that she gave up for adoption. I found out by snooping through my sister's diary, plus, double snoop scoop. Love it. Found my mom's Itachi and played with the new microphone. Then I found out it vibrated and started massaging my face and neck. Fuck. Me and my brother found a stack of about 50 Playboys in my dad's closet when I was 13. It was awesome for about a year till he discovered we had been messing with them and got rid of them. Then we were all out of porn again, but it was a very educational year. My dad has had a subscription to Playboy since probably before I was born in the early 80s. They were always in the bathroom to read. He still gets them every month. I grew up reading them and didn't understand why my friends thought it was so funny. I thought all parents had that kind of stuff just around the house. He kept a lot of them in boxes in the attic. I'm pretty sure he saved a lot of the real old ones. They'll be my inheritance, I guess. I was going through my dad's hockey bag. Found his cup. Thought it was a face mask. It wasn't till I saw the horrified look on my parents' face that I realized it's not for your face. Edit 1. A cup is a piece of plastic, vaguely shaped like a penis and testicles would, that fits inside a jockstrap to protect that region from damage. Edit 2. Glad to see other people do it as well. It lessens the shame a bit. Nobody cared who I was until I put on the mask. My mom was passed out drunk. Her boyfriend at the time told me to go get the keys from under her pillow. There were no keys, but there was a large vibrator. I was about 12. Those situations change you, yeah no? Edit. The vibrator was as long as my forearm. My dad's journal from before I was born. He was so incredibly depressed. He talked about how my older sister cried on her way to kindergarten, and it was the first time he'd been able to relate to her in years. Totally broke my heart. I've never told him though. That was definitely not meant for me to read. When I was a kid there were no such thing as cell phones and we didn't have magazines, so going to the bathroom was pretty boring. One way I used to entertain myself was by playing with a round piece of rubber that sat in the medicine cabinet. I would poke it, stretch it, spin it on my finger. Wasn't until several years later during sex ed that it suddenly dawned on me that I had been playing with my mother's diaphragm that whole time. Oh my god. I did this too, but it was because my parents kept this in the shower that we all used, and I thought it was a bath toy. In hindsight I'm so glad that I didn't damage it and accidentally get myself a sibling. I assume you used it as a cup in the bath, but at least you didn't take it to school for show and tell. Oh my god, yes. I was 8. Wasn't really snooping through my parents' stuff, but our family photo albums. Particularly with mine and my siblings as babies. First, I got to my brother's. It was so colorful and bright and filled with notes written by my mom. Same with my little sisters. Then I got to mine. It was boring to say the least. Just plain pictures with no notes or stickers or whatsoever. Then I got to the last page. I remember the exact verbatim of what I read in this small piece of blue sticky paper written by my mom. Is there any more I can say? No. Because we really wanted a baby girl. An 8-year-old boy bawled that day. My mother left her diary open once. It was a few years after my father died, and I read just the one entry on the open page. She was sad that I had been having dreams of him comforting me, and wrote that she hadn't dreamed of him once. It made me feel guilty for years. I never told her. My therapist said it was deliberate. I wasn't snooping, but when I was about 14 I was helping mom do laundry like I usually did on Saturdays when I was a kid. I went to put away my dad's shirts and found a Costco size box of condoms. It was nearly full. On its own that didn't bother me. I knew what sex was and figured my parents did it. The troublesome bit was the following Saturday, when I was helping with laundry, and saw 3 condoms in the drawer instead of 24. I mean, damn guys, it's been a week. Edit. All the suggestions of swinging and orgies have made me think about my parents' sex lives far more often than I like. So thanks. I'm choosing to go with the balloon animal theory. Dang, they are animals. You'd be surprised. Some people nut and throw on a new sock and keep going in the same session. When I was in middle school, my dad had a box at the top of his bedroom closet filled with hardcore porn on VHS. Later, when my folks weren't home, I watched a bunch of it with my friends. It made me very popular. No regrets. The kid with the porn rules the hormone crazed boys. After my dad passed away, I found some letters sent to him from his family that dated 40 years ago requesting him to marry his distant cousin so they can keep the family blood pure. He was 32 and she was 11. Side note, Middle Easterns have this weird thing with marrying underage girls who also are your distant/close cousins. I found other letters from his relatives saying that they are cutting ties from him because he refused to marry and that he is no longer welcomed in the country. They had the power to blacklist him. My dad ran away shortly after the first letter that I mentioned and met my mom, who's Bulgarian, who's also 2 years younger than him, and got married. Honestly, I'm just proud of him. When I was little, I always liked going in my parents' closet. Their closet is above the garage, so it is massive. There aren't any windows, so I liked going there during the day, to be in the dark. They kept a lot of random stuff in the very back, so I always thought it was fun to go through. It wasn't until it got around Christmas time when my parents said I was not allowed to go in their closet anymore, which naturally made me want to go in there even more. I waited until they were distracted with something and went in. I went to the very back where I like to explore and found a bunch of wrapped Christmas presents. A few weeks later I got those same presents but from Santa. This really confused me as an 8-year-old. Why would Santa bring the gifts early just to have to come back later to out them out on Christmas Eve? I guess it must make it easier and definitely would make the sleigh lighter. My mom used to make dolls out of used pantyhose. It was a thing in the 80s. A creepy thing. But it happened. Think Cabbage Patch premise but out of pantyhose. I found one in her closet in a box. I found one in her closet once. It was a man with a fake fur beard and an enormous TCK, like enormous. I'd never seen one in real life, so it caused me much anxiety. Also realizing mom was making naked man dolls. For what reason? Why, mom? Why? The usual snooping: find a rabbit vibrator and some liquid gold stuff. Bonus story: my sister also discovered the rabbit and repeatedly stole it for herself and even hid it from my mother. I don't know why.